Hi, my name is Jason Goodrow, and I'm a technical architect for AdviseX Technologies. I have over 23 years of industry experience, and before joining AdviseX Technologies, I worked for a large insurance company, a Fortune 250 company. I hold several certifications, and I was nominated this year as a VMware vExpert for 2013. A little bit about AdviseX Technologies. AdviseX is a solutions integrator. We're a top 10 partner for VMware, HP, EMC, and Oracle. We lead with our technologists. We have over 100 technologists with over 500 certifications. We have a 2-to-1 ratio between technologists and account executives. One of the things that we take pride in is that we have a 98% customer loyalty rating for over 2,000 clients that range in between healthcare, education, manufacturing, and business services. And we have 12 offices on the East Coast, ranging from Burlington, Massachusetts, all the way down to Tampa, Florida. So I'm curious how many people are deploying VDI. And that's what we're generally seeing in the marketplace. There seems to be an upbeat in VDI. But let's face it, the analysts really missed the mark with VDI. And this is a slide that I had obtained from a 2008 VMUG presentation that I went to. And Gartner back then had stated that by the end of 2010, all new PC deployments will be virtualized. But there are certain things now that are driving people to adopt an end-user computing solution. One of them is we need to support a growing number of diverse devices. Desktop refresh and upgrades take too much time. And there's been a 20% reduction in IT staffing since 2008. So again, growing support of a number of diverse devices, desktop refresh and upgrades take too much time, and a 20% reduction in IT staffing since 2008. Now, can anybody tell me what this date is? That's right, end of extended support for Windows XP. So the impact of that is that if you're in a highly regulated environment and you need to make sure that you have a secured desktop and you can't move off of Windows XP yet, that with a Microsoft, you will need to get a Microsoft contract, and if you have Microsoft SA, it costs about $200,000 a year. If you have no Microsoft SA, it's about $500,000 a year and $50,000 a patch. Now, Windows XP was released 2 months after the 9/11 attacks, and it was actually one of the most porous operating systems ever written. So if you need to stay on XP and you are in a regulated environment, there's a good probability that you might need one of these contracts. Some additional factors moving people to VDI and an end-user computing solution. The pace and rate of technology change is happening faster than ever. 66% of employees are using 2+ devices. Personally, I'm using 5 devices. Half of all non-PC devices will be BYOD by 2016. 300 billion application downloads by 2016. I know the iTunes store just hit 50 billion applications last month. That's a tremendous amount of applications. 300 billion applications, mostly mobile applications. And the other good portion of them are SaaS-based applications. Last quarter, we experienced the worst drop in PC sales in history. 13.9%. as was recorded by CNN Money. And it was actually worse than was originally anticipated. HP had announced that they had a 24% sales drop in laptops and a 19% sales drop in desktops. And Lenovo, who's the second leading company for delivering desktops, said that they had a 15% drop in desktop sales. So VMware has come out with a suite of tools to help manage end-user computing and enable workforce mobility. And it's called the Horizon Suite. And in this suite is VMware Horizon View, Horizon Mirage, and Horizon Workspace. So first I'm going to talk about Horizon Workspace. Horizon Workspace is really a single web interface portal that gives your employees access to a blend of tools which include desktops, applications, and files. Horizon applications enable your users to be able to get to web applications, mobile applications, and thin applications that they've been entitled to. They can also access a catalog of applications that are available to them to download and install and then use. Now, these applications use SAML authentication, which is a certificate authentication for SaaS providers. And the important part of that is that if an employee leaves your organization, after you have disabled their account in Active Directory, they are no longer able to get to SaaS applications. So if you think of the traditional way of supporting that environment, right now, if you give an employee access to a SaaS application, say a Salesforce or a Workday or Concur, each one of those different sites has an account and has a password. With SAML authentication, that is no longer the case. So if one of your employees leaves, you're just managing that access at Active Directory. So I left my company at the beginning of the year, and I had access to several SaaS-based applications, including MSDN, Concur, Gartner, and a few others. And after I left my company, I still had access to those applications for months. It's hard enough securing our own internal environment and not have to worry about the external partners. And this is where Horizon applications can help out. Horizon applications also intuitive enough to know that if you execute, say, the Salesforce application, and you're on your workstation, that'll open up the web application. And if you're on a mobile device or a tablet, that'll open up the mobile application. It'll also create a little lock icon on thin applications that need to have any type of internal resources. So it'll notify the user that they need a VPN connection to be able to actually use the application. Horizon Data works just like Dropbox, except instead of having your documents at a hosted provider, they're all secured in your data center. Now, it uses an Open Office API so that you can preview the documents right within the web portal. You can make the documents your favorites. It keeps a history of the activity that happened to the documents, and you can add comments to the document as well. You can share the documents amongst the internal users, and you can actually send a link out to public users as well. Now, it does have a client that will install on the desktop so that you can synchronize the documents back and forth between the data center so that if a user is offline, that they can still access the documents and modify the documents, and then when they're back online, it'll synchronize it back up to the data center with the changes. Horizon Computers delivers virtual desktops that your user has been entitled to. And they're able to use those desktops using either the PCO-IP protocol, the RDP protocol, or the HTML5 protocol. Now I want to talk a little bit about Horizon View, and specifically in Horizon View 5.2, some of the new feature sets. One of the most exciting features with Horizon 5.2 is HTML5 access to VMware View desktops. So with an HTML5 web browser, you can securely access a desktop. It uses the security server to make sure that the networking is secure. And then you're able to go in right from your web browser and use any desktops that you've been entitled to. Now, it doesn't have a lot of the advanced features. You're not going to be able to use multi-monitor. You're not going to be able to use printing or any USB redirect. But it's great for a quick entry into a virtual desktop from a browser when you need to do something in your work environment. Windows 8 client support. So Horizon View 5.2 does support Windows 8, including the Windows 8 Surface tablets. It also supports the Windows RT deployment. Initially, it is only supporting it in RDP mode. And from an infrastructure leadership standpoint, this was one of the most exciting features. Because when I was in infrastructure leadership, I always had to worry about budget accountability. So one of the limitations that we had with VMware View before 5.2 was that you could only use 8 hosts in a cluster. So say you had a large View deployment and you had 32 hosts. If you were using an N+1 methodology to ensure that you had availability and that you could do maintenance on your servers within that cluster, that meant you had 4 servers that were unavailable to you. Now that you can take advantage of the 32 hosts in a cluster limit, you only need to have 1 of those servers out of the pool. So if you think of it from a capital savings perspective, say that each one of those hosts costs you roughly $15,000. You've just saved $45,000 in capital costs. Additionally, there's a tremendous amount of operational savings. So now that you can have 2,000 desktops per pool, there are less pools that you need to manage. So if you go to update, say, Microsoft security patches every Tuesday of the month, it's much easier to do it with a large pool than with several smaller pools. Additionally, they've made it so that there is faster management capabilities, over 2 times improvement in desktop provisioning, refreshes, and recomposes. Now, link clones isn't a new feature. It's a feature that we've used to help reduce the overall storage costs, because storage took up 60 to 65% of the overall infrastructure costs when building out a VDI design. So by using link clones, we were able to reduce that footprint. But there were also several other advantages of using link clones. One of them was from an operational standpoint. So the way link clones works is you create a parent image, a base image, and then you create a replica or from a snapshot of that image. And the replica becomes a read-only image. And any writes go to the Delta files, which are called link clones. So say again you had to do patch updates. And you had the second Tuesday of the month patch updates from Microsoft. You can actually open up your parent image while your users are still using the replica and link clones. Test out the changes within the patches and make sure there's no compatibility issues. And then make another snapshot and recompose the pool. Now, if something goes wrong and users say that one of their applications isn't working correctly, you can always revert them back to the original snapshot. So it makes patching and software distribution much easier, and it helps secure your environment by being able to revert back to old snapshots. But one of the main problems we had with link clones is personalization. So when you went and distributed those patches, you went from a highly personalized desktop, like you see in the bottom right-hand corner, to a generic desktop because it went back to the base image up in the left-hand corner. And one analogy I like to use is, we all personalize our offices. You might hang up posters on your wall showing architectural diagrams, or you might hang white papers up on your wall, or different scripts to help you out. You might have a sheet that has contact numbers. We all like to personalize our offices, and it's no different than workspace. You like to have your shortcuts, your favorites, make your desktop personalized, because it really, in the end, it helps you be more productive. So a lot of people went to persistent desktops because of the issue of not being able to personalize the link clones and floating pools. But one tool I really like to use is Liquidware Labs Profile Unity. And what Profile Unity does is it abstracts the user profiles, user data, and user-installed applications all to a network share. In the user-installed applications, the way it works is that Liquidware Labs has figured out that they can take about 10% of the registry, suck it up into this virtual hard drive, and then migrate it back down during the boot up process. So the nice thing about that is it runs natively. So these applications run in native mode as opposed to, say, a thin application where you're wrapping everything into a single container. So with ThinApp, about 60% of the applications work. And a lot of it is because certain applications that require system drivers will not work with a ThinApp application. Additionally, if there's a lot of different components that the application relies on that aren't wrapped into the ThinApp, you tend to have a lot of issues. So in my previous company, we tried to do a lot of ThinApping. But unfortunately, we were only able to ThinApp about 30 to 35% of our applications. With Profile Unity FlexApp, that is not the case. You'll be able to use 99% of the applications, and they actually challenge people to go out and try to find applications that will not work with FlexApp. Another nice thing about this is it allows you to use your profiles, your data, and your user-installed applications between different operating systems. So you can have a pool set up for Windows 7 and Windows 8, and the users can log on and then be able to use their applications, their data, and their profile information. So think about that from a migration perspective. If you're migrating from Windows 7 to Windows 8, all you would need to do is spin up a pool, have the users log on, and then they're up and running with the new operating system with all their personalizations because it's become portable using Liquidware Labs Profile Unity. Additionally, it doesn't just work for virtual desktops. It works for physical desktops as well. So it could become a comprehensive solution for profile management for your organization. The last feature I want to talk about is Horizon View Unity Touch. And what Unity Touch does is it makes using Windows and Windows applications much easier on a tablet. It uses a slide tray that allows you to open up applications, close applications, search for applications and files, and make them favorites. It's much more intuitive to use than doing the traditional method of having to use a Windows-based operating system on a tablet. Now I would like to talk a little bit about leveraging SSD for VDI storage design. So one of the reasons you are going to want to use SSD is overall it actually reduces costs. So if you look at drives and the amount of IOPS traditionally in the drives, Enterprise SSD has about 6,000 IOPS per drive, whereas your normal 15K SAS drive or fiber channel drive has about 180 IOPS. And the reason that's important is that with virtual desktops, there's a different IOP profile than your traditional server, virtual server. So a virtual desktop is about 60% writes and 40% reads. As with your virtual server, it was 70% reads and 30% writes. So why is that important? Well, if you think about the RAID penalty that's included when you take those 15K drives and make them into an array. So if you create an array, a RAID 5 array with a write penalty of 4, you no longer have 180 IOPS per drive. It's now 45 IOPS per drive. So it would take about 267 15K drives to match what you could do with 2 Enterprise SSD drives. So one solution that we find very effective, especially for small deployments, is just leveraging local SSD. So you could take 2 SSD drives in a RAID 0 configuration, have about 12,000 IOPS. Amazing performance from an I/O and latency issue from disk capacity, and all the servers, all the virtual desktops are local on those servers. So there's nothing traversing the wire except your user profile information, like we talked about possibly with that Liquidware Labs Profile Unity tool. So you would just be using a Tier 2 or Tier 3 data store to stream down your profiles down to your desktops that are all being running locally on those servers, and they are in your data center right next to the applications the users are using. But one concern always comes up with this method is what happens if the server goes down. So the user here is connected to the server on the right-hand side, and that desktop goes down. Well, what you want to do is make sure that you provision your pools enough that you have enough capacity to provide a backup. So this user will lose connection to their VMware View desktop. They will connect to their backup pool, and the user profile would stream down. This is actually quicker than using a storage array and having the VM fail over to another host and spin up on another host. You can also use traditional array-based tiered storage. This was introduced in VMware View 4.6, where you put the replica on fast SSD again. And then you would put your link clones typically on Tier 2 storage. And again, you would leverage Tier 3 storage for profile management. And another interesting concept you could use is using a storage cluster and storage DRS. So you would make a storage cluster using different volume sets. You could do a VMFS volume 1, 2, and 3. So 1 would be SSD drives, 2 would be SAS drives, and 3 would be SATA drives. And then you would leverage DRS I/O utilization to move the VMDKs up and down the stack. So there are several different strategies that you can take for storage that no longer break the bank. There's in-storage block tiering, so EMC Fast Suite, HP 3-part dynamic optimization, new storage technologies like SSD drives, flash drives, and flash arrays like the new EMC Extreme I/O and the HP 3-part StoreServe 7450. Now the HP 7450 actually boasts over 550,000 IOPS, just a crazy amount of performance available, all within a single storage array. And then there's the all-in-one server deployment models like Nutanix. Now one of my favorite applications within the suite is Horizon Mirage, and I think it's going to grow in adoption, and you'll see a lot more companies starting to use Horizon Mirage. And what Horizon Mirage provides is it provides backups of your end user desktops, and it also provides layers for desktop images. So in essence, you're able to do centralized management of your desktops, similar to like what you can do for your virtual desktops with View. But this is for a local execution of their applications, leveraging a traditional desktop environment. So you install the Horizon Mirage client on each individual PC. So for the first PC that you install it on, it's going to back up everything on that PC to the Mirage server. Each subsequent desktop that you add only transmits any bit level changes to that image. On average, they say it takes about 15 gig per desktop for storage, for back-end storage for the Mirage server. And each Mirage server can handle about 1,500 desktops. So because this does bit-level synchronization, sort of client-level deduplication and compression, it only sends about 15 kilobits per second of information, and about 50 meg a day. Now it does move these bit-level changes on an hourly basis. It synchronizes back to the Mirage server on an hourly basis. At the end of the day, it does a snapshot of all of those changes. And with those snapshots, it keeps 5 dailies, 3 weeklies, and 11 monthly snapshots. So what's nice about that? Well, with that, you can provide user-level restores. so that the user can actually access what is called Mirage Restore on their desktop to restore files, folders, and applications. They would just right-click on it, click Mirage Restore, and then they'd be given a Dropbox that lists all the different restore points available to them, and they can restore their files and folders. Additionally, this could be used to restore entire desktops. So say my desktop here died on me. I could actually take my last snapshot of my desktop, restore it to a VMware View VDI desktop so that I'm up and running in minutes. And then when my new physical desktop comes in, take the last snapshot that was used for that VDI desktop and apply it to the new physical desktop. So instead of one of your users being down days with a loaner PC that doesn't have any personalizations, no internet links, no documents, all their data gone, they're up and running within minutes using their own desktop personality. Now, Horizon manages desktops in layers, and there are 3 layers that IT manages. And you'll see them here in the diagram. They're in green. It's the driver library, the base layer, and the application layers. All the other layers in orange are applications that are installed by the users, but are still backed up continuously to the Mirage server. So the way it works is that you have a reference machine that you take a snapshot of to take the base layer. And then those base layers are assigned to collections for the centralized virtual desktops. And you'll see it on this slide, CVDs. That stands for centralized virtual desktops. After it's been assigned to a collection, and collections can either be static or dynamic. So a static collection could be departments or geographies or floors. And dynamic collections are stuff like all your Windows 7 desktops or all your HP desktops, common elements that Horizon Mirage Server finds. All the bit levels are transmitted out to the physical desktops. They are now managed. And if you want to make changes to the base layer image, all you do is make updates to your reference machine, recapture those changes into the new base layer image, and then deploy that out to the collection. So say you had updated patches to the base layer machine, or the service pack, or antivirus. That would all be captured and then pushed out at a bit level down to the desktops. Application layers work the same way. So you have a reference machine, and then you can take a snapshot or a capture of that reference machine with the applications that you install. You can install these either as bundles, as you'll see on the left-hand side, which includes Microsoft Office, Adobe Acrobat, and Google Chrome, or they can be individual application layers. So if you create application layers, say, for different departments, the nice thing is you get a single base layer management solution and multiple application layers for each one of your different departments. And this can support up to 20,000 endpoints. And VMware has actually tested over 50,000 endpoints. One of the great features of Horizon Mirage is its ability to migrate operating systems. So one of the key functionalities, going back to our earlier slide, is that you can actually use Horizon Mirage to help you do a central upgrade from Windows XP or Vista to Windows 7. And the way it works is that after you capture your Windows 7 base layer image, it's going to stream down all those bits down to the client. So again, you'll select which collection of PCs you want to deploy it to. The bits will go down. The user gets notified that a stream is going down to the desktop. And again, because it's doing at bit level and it's sensitive to what's going on in the network and latency, it makes sure that it's not impacting any user performance. The user can still operate on their Windows XP desktop. When it's finished streaming, it takes a last snapshot of the Windows XP desktop. Then the user is notified that they need to reboot their desktop. And after about 20 minutes of configuration, the user is back up and running with Windows 7, with all their applications. They're on the domain, and all the user personalization is still there. Now, if something did go wrong, you can revert back to their last snapshot and bring their desktop back up and running. So let's look at Windows 7 migrations, what a typical migration without Mirage looks like. You had to prepare a loaner device, go to user office for the laptop, back up the user data, re-image to Windows 7, rejoin the domain, install updates, install corporate apps, restore user data, run USMT, bring the laptop back to the user office in user personalization. With Mirage, you assign the Windows 7 base layer image, client downloads the bits optimally, and the client reboots into Windows 7, automatic domain join, and profile is migrated. Now, before I go on to the services that Advisix can provide, are there any questions? So some of the services that we can provide is Advisix has a solution center that we can provide product demonstrations for all our core partners, including HP, EMC, and VMware. And a lot of times you don't need to come into our office. We can actually go on site, and as long as we can get a secure VPN connection, we can do a demonstration for you at your locations of the different product offerings. So I currently have the whole Horizon suite running in our Burlington office that I could bring my laptop out. You could see what the Horizon environment looks like, including Workspace, View, and Mirage. You could try Unity Touch Out on my iPad. We also do VDI assessments with the Lakeside SysTrack software. That helps us with DDI capacity planning, migration planning, understanding the storage throughput, any latency issues that might be needed, and helps us plan out your pools to meet your user and application needs. Additionally, we can work with you on VMware Horizon pilots, so we can come out to your office, set up a proof of concept pilot for you. That way you get experience with managing a Horizon environment, understand the connection server, understand Composer, help you set up the different types of pools that you might want to be interested in, and get you started from a walk perspective before you run and start to deploy this out to your production users. And that's all I have today. I hope you found this presentation informative, and you can always reach me at the contact information below. Thank you.